Good afternoon, everyone. I'll kick off with just some general meeting etiquette and such. I know it's a good, we talk about it a lot, but just a reminder, just for ease of interpretation, if folks can remember to speak slowly and not speak over each other. And as you're speaking, if you can introduce yourself, that way, for the interpretation, we know who's actively speaking. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it to Juan Luis and Jonathan to start off the meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. As a new thing, what we're trying to do is allow folks to be more, I guess, have a more active role with the outreach committee, being able to maybe do, if they want to do specific tasks, like last time, Leonard, I believe Leonard was the one that was doing timekeeping, or was that 2 meetings ago? He was able to do based off of the time from the the agenda item, which you have in the chat. He was able to keep track. Are we going in, how many more minutes do we have till we have to end this thing? That allows us to keep things organized, and also keeps us on top of what it takes to stay in a specific conversation. And maybe we will miss something and we'll be able to work on it next time so that we can keep it concise. Is there anyone that would like to do timekeeping where all they have to do is when it says 2:05 or when it's close to 2:05, they look at it and say, hey, we're almost close to the time. We have this amount of time left. And that sort of thing. Is there anyone that would like to do that today in this meeting?
I'll be happy to volunteer, Jonathan.
Okay, thanks. Bree, appreciate. Thank you for note taking. I know we also are going to have backup as well from Stephanie, right? Yeah.
Yep. And if I could, a quick announcement also. I totally forgot to announce earlier. We're going to take a quick break from 2:30 to 2:40, so that our interpreter can get a little break. So we'll announce that at 2:30.
Okay. I guess we can really go underway. If let's. Juan, would you like to share the screen, please?
Absolutely. 1 minute, 1 second. All right, please confirm if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we see the action items.
Yes.
And yeah, I think this should be good. We start at 2:05. Review action items. We had about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 action items from last meeting. And so we'll run down from the very top to the bottom, see how that's going. I guess me is on the very first line. We talked about how incorporating like a laminate or a boundary map that is able to be utilized for outreach when CSC members are able to do outreach at certain events, and to have sort of a standard, board or a thing that has like a map on it, or the boundary map, so that they could easily post, keep it up as they're talking about the AB 617 process. And also it allows folks to know exactly where the boundary map is at. So far, I was just yesterday given the map, the new map. So the old map that I created was not a good style map. It cut off a little bit of the sides. So Stephanie was able to send me one yesterday. And so what I think, I have it on Canva. And I think what we're going to do is, Heather, are we going to be working on that soon? Do you want to work on that together next week?
I am happy to direct all of your attention to Juan Luis.
Yes.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so it's finalized and we're so happy. Thank you, Heather, and thank you to one of our team members, Anna, over here. So
your hand is on the QR code. There you go.
There you go.
So the QR code takes you to the same place. This is Heather, sorry. The QR code takes you to the same place that flyer did, where you can do 2 things. You can share your contact info with us right then, and or you could use the tool to look up your address and see if you fall in the boundary.
Okay, that's great. And that is stand, correct? But is there anything on the back of it?
No, so we printed that on our plotter today and attached it to foam core. What we can do is actually have it formally printed with that little bit of a slick cover laminate, right, to protect it onto foam core and give a couple out to you guys. And then we could also email you the image so you can use it anywhere you really want to, if somebody wanted to just run a copy for an afternoon kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's great. Does anyone have, this is Jonathan, does anyone have questions on the team about it? Douglas has a question. You can unmute yourself on your thing. Star 9?
I think it might be star 6, Douglas.
Star 6.
I don't know if you can see Douglas. This is Stephanie. I'm asking you to unmute as well. Maybe you can just click a button on your screen that's popping up.
He is using his phone. Okay. Do star 6.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I look like my phone got disconnected. I don't know, like it usually have a speaker on the side, and then I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. To get to ask Jonathan, the map that is already, you said it's a new map. What's the difference between the old map and the new map? That it still have the same boundary from north to the south? You know, I know you touch in and then you change it. So I would just like to know what's different about it.
No difference. It's just, this is Jonathan. This is the same map. It's just making sure that it's on a bigger board so that we can actually have standing when we're doing outreach.
Okay. So the outreach is the borderline of the map when it comes to reaching out, like what's going on, if there's going to be like any like information forum, like I just got a call. You know, it's like almost every day I'm getting calls from solar energy, and then you get a free and it comes from the state. And I don't know if it's that legitimate that we're getting from the California. I'm afraid I'm gonna use something that might be a scam or something like that. So how would I know if it's from you guys, from us, or from another private industry that's promoting that? You know what I mean, Jonathan? So do you have anything to educate the people? Thank you.
So there's two things. One, this is Jonathan. One, do you know that there's no solar in our project, in the CERC project? So those calls have nothing to do with AB 617. Second, you do make a good point when it comes to information about just sort of how to market to people, because being aware that people have done scams already or spam calls. And so we have to be very intentional about making sure, like directly talking to people, letting them know that this isn't a spam or a scam, this is straight whatever it is. So of course our messaging is going to be important across everyone when they do outreach. Thanks, Douglas. SB.
Yes, this is SB. And to Douglas's point, that's one of the issues that we're actually working on, and we can have a side conversation on regarding solar, because of the fact that statewide, a lot of the EJ communities have basically, been bombarded with this misinformation, and it ends up that it's not free, and there are only a couple of free programs in the state of California. And so like I said, we can talk offline about it. We can get some more information, and then even inform like our outreach committee here or what have you. I can get, like someone to present from the Association of all the solar companies from CALSA, which is a nonprofit that we work with, or Solar Rights Alliance. And that's one of the things that we can do. And as far as our messaging, along with what Jonathan was saying, is maybe like in the QR code and everything we have is kind of like some kind of like streamlined messaging, right? AB 617, you know, like it's basically funding from CARB, you know, through the air district, or something real simple that our community members can understand. So when we're speaking to them, we would say, it would say AB 617 XYZ, something like that is my suggestion.
Now, just Jonathan, there is messaging on the very bottom of every sort of piece of paper when we do specific outreach for difference of, well, let me change my background. So this is a sheet from one of the Rising Sun partners, and on the very bottom, it has a template of like who the Climate Careers Program is supported by, the SCC, CCC funds, cap and trade dollars at work. That's sort of the messaging that we could put on all of our things. We can do that, right? Air district, yeah. But good point, Douglas. Okay, I see that we are at 2:15 now, and we can go on to leveraging the mini grant program. First, talking about sort of the framework for in-person outreach. And Juan, did you have any specifics as to how we can go about this?
Thank you, Jonathan. And I think this is where SB will be joining the conversation about this idea. So SB, do you want to share more a little bit about your specific ideas on this item?
Yeah, so some of the outreach that we've been doing with our other grants is making a very streamlined approach process for our community members to join us. And so we want to give the option because you know, we're having a rise in the different cases with COVID. And so if we could do, you know, I would opt to still do like the online version versus like the in-person, because literally every in-person meeting I've gone to, I've gotten an email message that has said that somebody has had COVID and, you know, to, you know, obviously get checked. So versus putting our community members in danger and have it traced back to an AB 617 workshop, I would say that we do, we opt for the, for us to have it online, just to keep everyone safe if everyone's in agreement with that. Because like I said, that's what's happened with every single event that I just attended. And so that being said, how we've been doing for our outreach is, you know, we have, we get the first initial outreach done, you know, so in our case, you know, we've been canvassing, which, you know, we can do that because then they get at least drop the information as far as like the flyer that we've been all talking about. And then after that, we get the folks to the actual meeting itself. In the case of these other grants that we have, they're actually like compensating the community members because there's going to be real input from them. So I don't know if that's something that we would do, like they're giving them a gift card, like an e-gift card. And so, you know, that's also because we're valuing their time, you know, that they're being spent there if we're going to do a workshop for like 2 hours or something like that. So, I mean, that's a question that we would have to put back, you know, besides our committee here, like with the Air District, because we have our community members who already get compensated, but actual greater outreach in terms of that piece of it. Some, you know, kind of a small token for attending the workshop in terms of this education process. And then we have the different breakout sessions for additional, sorry? And for additional questions, we have it broken down into different breakout sessions. We have a within the workshop itself, a separate room for the monolingual Spanish speaking, and we have it set up in that manner. And so in terms of the write-up of all this, I can go ahead and send it to everyone sometime next week. That kind of like breaks everything down as far as like, you know, the process that we've utilized and has been very successful. We have, for example, on one of our outreach components, the goal was to have 20 people. The workshop's not until the end of the month, and we already have 25 signed up. So also, is there going to be like a set number that we want to go after? Like we want to say, hey, if we get 10 people, then we're doing great, right? And we're doing them in like what Heather was saying earlier, like in not earlier in this meeting, sorry, earlier in the other meeting, you know, like if we have, our goal is to have 5 of these workshops in different areas. The only thing from our last meeting to now is that surge that I've been talking about as far as with the numbers, because it's been spreading pretty fast. And like I said, so do we want to do a hybrid, or do we want to do all online just to be safe? Because like I said, the trace back part of it for all the meetings that I've had is to the location of who hosted the meeting, right? Because they told them, hey, I have COVID, then they have to let everybody know. So I think that's a decision that the group has to make. And, you know, in terms of that responsibility component, and then once we have that done, and then I send like a layout outline, if that works with everyone, it's been successful for us. And then we can go from there. So, so basically, but that's just kind of like an overview of what we've been able to do and accomplish in all the workshops that we're doing.
So just to summarize, so there was sort of like a kind of like a almost like a voting, I guess, for everyone on sort of what approach do we want to go so far when it comes to outreach and having to capture, like when surveying residents, what approach do we do right now, right? Is that right, SB? Like, are you talking about how do we prioritize more on virtual space, or should we kind of?
Well, it was a combination. So, so just to be clear, us, EJCW, we have canvassers, and so they know how to canvass, they're trained, and so we can do the initial outreach, do a physical drop of information that'll have the QR code, that'll have an assessment and an invitation to an upcoming workshop. But the actual workshop itself, last time we talked, you know, I thought we were talking about in person. What I'm suggesting is that the workshop itself be a Zoom workshop because of the increase of the COVID cases with everyone getting together. Because I would hate for them to come to an in-person workshop and have it traced back to us.
This is Jonathan. What is everyone's thoughts on that? Douglas.
You know, I noticed that since COVID, we have many Zoom, and there's a lot of miscommunication when it comes to Zooming, or we had a lot of things going on, assuming that. But right now, just yesterday when I went to an in-person meeting, I see the benefit, because now you're in front of them, you're getting all the information from a person across the table, and getting all the information instead of than looking at the screen. You know, a lot of people cannot able to look at a screen more than an hour. I cannot sit there because of the way my mind and my brain and my eyes all kind of trigger. It's not even good for anyone to in a matter of fact, just to look at the screen within an hour. That's not even healthy at all, period. But in person is more beneficial for people, because I remember when I first came in on board, we had a gathering, and we had to break some ice. We had a game. We had an introduction. We had to meet people and everything. All the first night we started to know what was our position. We understand what we're getting into it. And trying to explain more on a presentation, on a slide, whatever. We got all the information in person, and we understood it, what we're going to do. So I don't think it's not a bad thing to be in person, but in person is very valuable because we, as a human, we have to be part of the group of understanding, whether it be a subcommittee or a regular meeting like we had it last time at the civil service center. We had a lot of people in there in that site. So I definitely think that in-person is more beneficial of getting things, understanding going on and what direction we're going to be able to take. Thank you.
Margot.
Wow. Yeah, I agree with Doug that in-person is extremely valuable, but I really thank SB for bringing up the COVID stuff because that's something that I constantly bring up to my groups and trying to make the decision if you're going to host an in-person, to me always comes to, are you willing to take the blame for people getting sick? And that's a real tough place to be in. Because even before the rates started going up significantly, which they are right now, you'd go to one meeting and then you get a notification, just like SB said, oh, by the way, so-and-so is positive now 2 days later. It's like, oh, great. Yes, I wore my mask. Yes, there were distance, but oh, great. So I agree with Doug. I love in-person meetings. I think they're very important, but boy, I couldn't do in-person right now.
And I agree also that in-person is very, very valuable. Again, this is SB. And those meetings, like Margot just said, every single meeting that I went to, and there weren't a lot of people, there was like, maybe 50 plus or what have you, but every single one, they notified us that somebody, had COVID, was positive, and then obviously for everyone to get tested. So maybe if we did, so the option A would be like all online. Option B would maybe be hybrid, and then we'd have to have a location that maybe is outside, spacing and all of that, so there'd be like some limitations because just personally, I don't know where the air district stands as well, like with staff, if they're as a meeting where it's not outside and it's in person inside, and being responsible. That's the only question that I had as far as that's concerned. And just because I've been experiencing it in the same way where, days later, we get the notice that somebody was positive. So, so we would just have to then, as a committee, be ready for that. And then, obviously there's not a liability, right? Because people opt in to come in person, take the protocol, and or if there's a way to do it outside, and or do a hybrid.
That's a good point. Ed.
I agree with a lot of what's being spoken, and I'm just to be clear, I really like the hybrid position. I take an attitude that everybody's going to get COVID at some point in time, unfortunately, and we can see that with even Dr. Fauci yesterday becoming positive for COVID. We all have to make an effort to do the responsible thing for our own personal health. But I'd like to add a second piece to that. Many of us are incredibly busy, and Zoom allows, I literally, and I'm going to say it this way, have gone to university over the last 2 years because I've been able to participate in 4 times as many CARB and other type meetings that has allowed me to gain significant additional knowledge. And while I agree with Douglas, sitting in front of a screen is crazy and it's difficult. And for me, I have to have the discipline to get up every once in a while, walk around and try to shake it off a little bit. But I think a hybrid provides the biggest opportunity for those that have impediments that might make it difficult for them to be in an in-person meeting. Thank you.
I just want to elevate some comments that I'm seeing in the chat just about Nate is sharing that generally also enjoys in-person meetings, but is feeling, there is another wave of COVID, and just acknowledging that, and also sharing experience he's had with a different committee and workshops that he's been involved with that did testing. And that was time consuming, but it did work. And then also I'm seeing a comment from Jonathan, and just want to share this aloud, that everyone in the meeting, please provide your thoughts in the chat, in person, hybrid, or virtual only. And if anyone wants to share that aloud, please feel free to. And then this is also just a reminder, at 2:30 for those of us that weren't here, we're going to take a quick break to allow a break for our interpreter. And so we'll take a break from 2:30 to 2:40. And in that time, if people can share their thoughts on what they think about, style of that meeting, and feel free to share it aloud too, if that's how you want to do so.
This is Heather. I was going to share a comment, but it is 2:30, so I will respect the time.
Okay, we'll come back to Heather. Everyone will go ahead and call a pause right here. Feel free to stretch, grab a drink, and then we're going to take a pause for 10 minutes. So come back at 2:40.
All right, I'm going to jump right back in. This is Heather, if we're okay with that. Okay, so what I was going to say is a couple of points to SB's question. To let you know kind of where the district is. We are still in a hybrid fashion. Hybrid only it's limited even. So like, for example, we had a governing board meeting today. It was broadcast via webcast, sort of our normal process, but the in-person attendance in our regional offices was limited to 15, 10, and 10, which is normally like 200, 80 and 80 or something like that, significant reduction. And we spread everybody out 6 feet. So we're not even in what I don't think we'll ever be back to quote unquote normal. But my two thoughts: one, we're in this for the long haul. So I think we absolutely can do some hybrid or totally online right now as we gear up and figure out what this committee can really get done. To SB's idea, I think, and hopefully SB can pull together all the applications, and maybe we can shape it with the rest of you too. But if you all did some kind of canvassing, or if we used her canvassing approach, I think it could be even 2 or 3 iterations of canvassing over these areas over the course of the summer. And we pick a date in like August to have this virtual workshop, and we promote it all summer long, right? And we could potentially get a significant crowd, if you will. We talk through the prizes and all the things to motivate people to go. And then from that one, we assess where we stand, and then maybe the next one's in person. But I do hear everything y'all are saying, and I can tell you that we're not doing mass groups indoors at all. In fact, to be honest with you, tonight we have a public meeting in a community in the Valley, and that's the first one. We had one that we joined with CARB like in November in this community, and these are the only ones I can think of in the last 2 years, to be honest. So I think we can all be nimble and respond as we need to. The only other piece I have to that is the upcoming agenda item is perfect for this, because it speaks to this online tool that we want to test out, and at least we can operate in an online environment and maybe still make some progress. So that's all I got.
Okay. So far, Juan, you said you're capturing the information. You want to go around the room to confirm. So everyone who would like to do hybrid, please raise your hand. SB, is that for this thing?
Yes, this is
Okay.
SB.
You guys caught that right, Air District?
I think I'm seeing that it's unanimous. Juan, Luis, you too?
Yes, and then Brianna, you're for hybrid as well?
Can't hear you, Juan Yuli.
Okay, yeah, so
That's fine. I'm okay with hybrid.
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, hybrid it is. Great, thanks guys. Quick voting. Now, SB, I know there were still some other pieces to it, to your agenda item, but I know we are already way off the thing. So should we move to the next agenda item?
This is SBS, and I'll come back with the written out format to assist the committee with the whole processing of outreach that we were talking about. Thanks.
Before we move on, Jonathan, can I just clarify that we're talking about a hybrid meeting, but that could change depending on what occurs between now and then, right? It might have to go virtual anyway.
Yeah, it's always, with public health, we always have to be adaptable. So yes, so if there's anything where we find there's a huge spike of things, then yes, we will for sure quickly stay virtual. Good question, Margot. So what, do we go into the next agenda item, correct?
Yeah, and I can take over here. The next agenda item here is going to be regarding a CERT measure mapping exercise. We've talked about it a little bit in this subcommittee, and then also in our main CSC meeting about kind of crowdsourcing information in order to like prioritize certain areas in the boundary, in our Stockton AB 617 boundary for some of our various CERT measures. And that can include things like EV charging stations. That can also include things like bike paths. And so I'm just wanting to, with this kind of smaller group for now, just get some insight and feedback on building out this tool so that we can, when we share it out with like the wider CSC and potentially if anyone has folks that are interested out in the public. And like Heather is saying, potentially for this canvassing effort, get folks' thoughts on like where we think that these different CERT measure incentive items, such as chargers, such as bike paths, would be suitable in the community. And that way, when we have this information that we can bring back to different agencies like the city and county as they're starting to think about taking accessing these funds. Jonathan, go ahead.
Yeah, I was trying to see from SJCOG if they did already a map that is in relation that we would just be able to tap into like theirs and just add on to the.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, not to cut you off, but the what? The COG?
SJCOG, San Joaquin Council of Governments. They of course have the rideshare program with the EV charging stations as well. And so did we find out there's a way to tap into that already?
Yeah, that's a great point. And just to get everyone up to speed, our partners over at San Joaquin Council of Governments, SJCOG, they actually released a survey. And just generally, SJCOG has a series of like different, they're in their kind of, I think it's called Heather, remind me, the Mobility Collective.
Yes, Stockton Mobility Collective. Yes.
Stockton Mobility Collective. Within this collective, they're working towards several things that overlap pretty well with the CERP. They're doing their own kind of workshop. They're doing their own training, like EV mechanic training type thing. Their effort might look different and it's still kind of building out. They also, like Jonathan mentioned, they have chargers in their Mobility Collective project. They have a bike share program too. And we're coordinating with them. We just met with them very recently to make sure that we're kind of, we stay abreast to those efforts because we want to make sure that we're not duplicating anything and that we're kind of like building up together. And they recently had a survey that went out. It looks different from this. It's not like a mapping tool per se, but they had locations preset, and then folks would go into the survey and say like, location at this area, do I like it? Kind of thing. But we definitely want to work with SJCOG. And so that's kind of with this, there's a couple of things that I want to do to build up this map in addition to getting all of your feedback. One is to reach out to SJCOG to kind of see if we can get those results and see if there's anything we can add to make this map better. And then also reaching out to the city, because I know the city already has some work that they're doing on bike paths as well. And so maybe some not so speaking so theoretically, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to get an example of what this map looks like. I also see some questions too. Do people want to do their questions before they see the map? Douglas, go ahead.
Just a brief question. When you're going to show the map, are you going to be able to have like station where the bike going to be located, like a station of a bike could be right by the front of City Hall, or the front of the new City Hall, or they're going to be right by where the theater will be, or they're going to be how are they going to be substation around part of Stockton, or it's going to be within in that area of in the south only, I guess, in the map that we're doing it. So, and also, if that was the case, I know there was a lot of people was just saying that if we have a bike program sharing, which is a good thing, you know, that's would they steal it? Would they steal the park? Would they steal metal? Would they use this metal to take it to the recycle bin, whatever? Are they gonna able to report it? Say, hey, this looks like a bike program. Are they gonna able to bring that back to the subcommittee, whatever? So that was another thing that it's a gray area. So that's my concern is. So that's all. But I just more and more concerned about where the location will be. Stationary. Thank you.
Thanks, Douglas. This is Stephanie. And just to clarify a couple of points, a good thing to remind ourselves is the footprint of the Stockton Mobility Collective. One of the reasons where I think an extra survey or like an additional survey would be good is their footprint is actually different from our boundary. Theirs is kind of this long thing that goes through Stockton, and ours is kind of goes out wide. So that's kind of part of it. And then Douglas, to your point, and so in the Stockton Mobility Collective, they have, they're planning on doing a program for bike share. However, in our AB 617 SERP, our funding is actually for bike paths. So the actual kind of infrastructure to allow people to ride their bikes. And so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so that folks can kind of see the map that we're talking about. And so there's definitely, this is just an early kind of showing of what it could look like. There's more information that we want to add to make this map more useful and put in more information so that we're not like the areas and the locations we're selecting are the most informed and not just kind of like popping a pin on the map. But the idea is that this is our boundary, as everyone I think knows in this group. And so what we want to do is, I think many of you recognize this tool. It's called Social Pinpoint. I think we've used it previously in this CSC for other exercises. But say, for example, we want to get some feedback from this group about where we think EV charging would go. And so this tool is really easy if you're like, I really want a charger kind of off the freeway here. You can drag a pin, and there's already a point here, but maybe we have like a lot of people supporting this site. You can drop a pin, and then you can actually drop like a little nap. Prioritize charging station. And then you can leave a comment, and you can leave your email, and then you can leave like, information, just so I can enter it, and you'll add a comment, and then you can see that your comment kind of has been tracked in this area. And then we can also add, for example, if we wanted to add a bike path, we can actually add it to anywhere that we want to start suggesting. You can pin that here, and then you can draw out any certain area. And so you'll do the same thing. You can leave a comment. And so what we want to do is we want to kind of, again, build this out, add some more information that makes sense. We also know in kind of our early conversations with the city of Stockton that the city of Stockton does have a list of bike path projects that are kind of on that they do want to get through, but they haven't been able to fund. And so something that we'd like to add is also potential projects that the city of Stockton is already considering to potentially get any feedback or support for any of those sites as well. Because for this bike infrastructure CERT measure that we have, really we've heard from multiple people, and we do see that the funding amount, you know, would be considerably low for just funding one project, and that really isn't the purpose. That amount, we really want to make sure that we're leveraging funds with other groups, so whether that's the city, you know, and we want to leverage and match funds. That way, you know, this wasn't always that amount of money, the $500,000 wasn't meant to fund 100% of one project. We really want to reach out and work with other agencies in the area. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and then if folks have any feedback on ways that they think we can improve this tool before we kind of make it live, there's definitely lots of things we want to add, but open to any feedback we have here.
The only feedback I had is where can I access it to begin to work with it. But if it's still draft, I understand.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Ed. And then I'm seeing SP's question. Are there current bike paths already on the map? And that's definitely something that we want to add, current bike paths. And then also if there's a chance that we can map out some of the ones that the city of Stockton, their projects that they have pending, we'd like to add those as well. Are there any other thoughts? And the map also is showing some other landmarks as well. There, I didn't quite click on it, but if you saw those little gray icons, those are some of the schools that we have in the area. And so if there's any other kind of city or just kind of landmarks that you all think would be helpful in building out these ideas for CERT measures, we're totally open to that feedback as well.
What about the fast charging systems that we have the incentives for? Is that a map is this a map you would suggest those on? Or I know we're going to have a committee meeting about that to talk about where we would like to suggest they go, but is that separate? Is this part of it?
So this is part of it, definitely, Margot. Thanks for bringing up that point. And so at the last CSC meeting, we talked about potentially identifying some priority locations where the CSC would like to see, you know, that funding for EV charging infrastructure spent. And so this is definitely a part of this. If there's like priority areas that folks are wanting, like for near like Conway Homes or, you know, some type of area beyond like a single point, we can also include that in the map to get, again, those priority locations that the CSC is wanting to see chargers.
I think it's a good idea. I just don't want to make it as the same as SJCOG, but I know with this information that we share, it's going to be something that could be shared across other agencies. So like, say we are able to get more than SJCOG, we would be able to share the information to SJCOG and vice versa.
Yes, exactly. We definitely kind of want to make sure we're sharing information with the groups that are doing very similar things, of course.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, what was that comment? I missed it. Share with the COG?
Yes, share with the SJCOG so that we just share resources across the board.
Thank you.
And then I think what would be great once we do that, maybe by the next meeting, it would be maybe a training with everyone on how to do outreach and what to say when sharing out your groups, you know, about the survey, the mapping survey. Develop a small script. Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead, Douglas.
And this is Doug.
Hey, Jonathan, I was thinking, have they already redistrict District 1? District 1 can help out with the mapping area since they're part of South Stockton as well to help get some resources like infrastructure and bike path instead of through the city? Or is there any way possible? Thank you.
District 1 city is in South Stockton now? Do you have that official map? Because I have not seen an official map.
Well, I don't know, but I know that I haven't seen any changes, but I'm still District 1, you know, so I haven't seen it. I don't know where to find it, but I know that District 1 is still part of South Stockton, I assume. So I'm not sure. That's what I'm asking you. Because I know that either if we get some kind of support, you know, from COS as well as the San Joaquin County District, able to leverage bike path throughout the area, we could, you know, get something accomplished. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying San Joaquin County, not Stockton City Council District. You're talking about
right.
Okay, so he's talking about Board of Supervisors District.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
We will follow up with them on this. Douglas, I want to make sure we have 1 minute till we're done. So does anyone have any last thoughts, last things? Any agenda items we want to talk about for next time? Should we have any ideas?
I would like to suggest one. In tandem, this Heather, once we get SB's stuff off the ground, I think we tip our toe in the water, and this is just a thought. Obviously, it's definitely up to you guys. I think we tip our toe in the water and maybe calendar a virtual meeting or a virtual workshop or a virtual, whatever we want to call it, right? Something that's more appealing than meeting. Start collecting prizes, do all the things. And we could still, I mean, I suppose you could always make it in person later. Anyway, I do think that there's value in maybe looking out a couple months or not quite that far and finding a date and then aiming for that date, right? So that any conversation Jonathan has and any conversation Douglas has and basically all the momentum of anything we're able to accomplish over the next 30 to 60 days could be like focused at this particular fun community virtual town hall where they could win prizes and learn more and maybe get a sense of understanding and that, you know, we do our own sort of grassroots advertising by just talking about it all summer long. That's just my thought. And we're out of time.
Yeah, let's talk through email. I'm already looking at September. September seems like a good spot for some things. So we'll do through email, you guys. And if there ever needs to be an extra specific meetings on these things, I'd be willing to sit down and talk about it with anyone. So no worries, but we will resume this next month. Everyone else, does anyone have any last things?
Me again, it's Heather.
Okay.
Looking at dates, I just want to make sure we lock in a date. I actually will be out on this date, so I'll miss you at this meeting. But based on the timing of when we normally do this meeting, this would be again on, oh no, I wouldn't be. We'd have to move it a week because we land on a Flex Friday again. So how does Friday, July 22nd? Oh no, that's the date of Pauline's event, isn't it? Is that the date of Pauline's event? Does anybody know?
This is
No.
Juan Luis. Actually, that would be on. That would be accurate. I think that was on the 22nd, Friday the 22nd.
Got it. Okay, so I'm speaking ahead. I thought it would be simple to just throw it on the calendar on the same Friday of the month so we could get a date. But now I'm thinking that might not be the case.
Can we do the 21st again?
I'll be there for that.
It'll be after a board meeting.
Oh, board meeting for you. We're dark in July.
Okay.
We could even, well, if we did the 14th, I wouldn't be there, but you could do the 14th, I guess, too. But the 21st, we were shooting for Fridays, but since there's no board day, I'm totally uncomfortable with the 21st, too.
Everyone, can you guys do the 14th? Brianna?
And just to clarify, is this July or September?
Oh, July. July. For this next collective grouping, September was the target for maybe a, talk all for a couple months about a date of a workshop that we all, have dialogue about, pick a date out in the future.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Not July 16th.
And Doug's
That's
saying
being-
yes to July 14th.
Yes, correct. July 14th. Same time, 2 to 3. Okay, y'all, let's do it. Let's lock it in.
Yes, sounds good.
So not the 21st, but the 14th.
Steph,
Correct.
you're going to send out a
Thursday.
request.
I'll send out the calendar appointment, and we'll send up some, just like we've been sending out to the groups, just some follow-up action items. We'll do that kind of usual thing too.
Great, thank you.
And just verbally making sure that date works good for Steph and Juan Luis. No, not for Steph. So Juan Luis, looks like you might be on your own. Steph and I are going to be out that
Yes. Yeah, that's fine. That works for me.
We got it, Juan. Don't
Yes,
worry.
we got it.
We believe in you.
day. Teamwork.
Thank
All
you
right,
all
guys.
for joining.
All about teamwork. Yes.
Thanks everyone for being here. We'll talk soon. We'll talk through emails. We'll have a great rest of your weekend. Stay cool.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Appreciate you all.